There are your run-of-the-mill employment law claims that we handle at Kampen Law, and then there are what we call our bombshell cases. And this falls into a category of law that is called crisis management law. And these are the sort of cases that, if they ever became public, would result in front-page stories on the New York Times or the Washington Post or the Leader, local or national news. And these are the cases that oftentimes never come to light because they're negotiated quietly. And these are the sort of cases, a typical example would be where you have a woman who is sexually harassed by a CEO or a corporate officer, or other scenarios where you may be a chief financial officer in an organization and be aware of accounting fraud that could result in SEC violations or criminal findings. In those sort of cases, employers are very reluctant to allow the litigation to ensue. And the reason for that is the stakes are so high. There can be an impact on stock price, there can be an impact on potential deals, losses of customers and partners. And they're usually very motivated to settle in those sort of cases, but you're up against a behemoth. And employers in that scenario, they spare no expense in hiring the very best legal teams that they can, and these are these crisis management attorneys. They are housed in the best firms in the country, and within those firms, they are the best lawyers that those firms have. And so it's so important to know you're up against a really strong legal team, but what do you need to fight back in that scenario? And there are really four things that you're going to need on your side up against that sort of situation. And first is to find a firm that has an established reputation in this area. It's very important that the corporate law firm have confidence and trust in the firm that you hire to know that they're experienced in this area and will deliver on the confidentiality that's being negotiated. Second, it's really important to hire a media-savvy law firm. And that's not to say that you want to hire a law firm who wants to run to the media to talk about your situation. Quite the opposite. You want a law firm that is going to advocate for you in negotiations, but if those negotiations fail, it's so important to have a law firm behind you that is media savvy, because I can assure you that the company has probably hired a PR firm to deal with a specific situation, and if you don't have a media savvy law firm behind you, that can create a real problem. And third is firepower. The company, that CEO, needs to understand that you've hired a law firm that won't hesitate to file that lawsuit if they need to when those negotiations fail. And so I would recommend hiring a law firm that is a trial firm, a firm that is known in town to file lawsuits, and more than that, go to jury trials and win jury trials, because if all they think you're doing is negotiating, you won't be successful in getting a deal that you should. And then finally, it's important to hire an advocate who is both fearless and passionate. I'm a big brother. I've got two little sisters, so they're not little anymore, and a daughter. And so, for me, and I'm sure lots of dads, we send our daughters into the workplace and our sisters into the workplace and expect them to be treated as partners and to be protected at work. And so when it happens, and it does, that they're subjected to essentially a predator in power, somebody needs to do something about that. And so we are always eager to get in that fight and to not only help our client, but to punish and deter the person who is preying on our client in the first place. Now, if you're watching this video, you are probably really stressed and really anxious. And you've probably been feeling that way for a long time, and fearful. And those are normal emotions, and a lot of times that's the trauma talking. But I would strongly encourage you to at least meet with an attorney and to find out what sort of legal options you may have as a result of what happened, because there are mistakes that you can be making that are so avoidable if you wouldn't just consult with an attorney early on for some advice. And I just give some now in this video. you can wait too long. It's okay that harassment has occurred over a year or two period and that you haven't complained yet. In fact, that's totally normal to occur. But if that harassment has stopped and you wait too long after the harassment has stopped to go talk to a lawyer, you can end up surrendering your legal claims. And even though we would have the ammunition to do something about it, that delay in time can really tie our hands. You may also be feeling like nobody's going to believe you, and you need to understand that times have changed. So ever since the Me Too movement, when women are coming forward now, the default is, she's not making that up. The default is, we believe you. And it wasn't that way even 5 years ago, and certainly not 10 years ago, but I want you to know that if it happened, our firm will believe you. We're accustomed to getting into these sort of situations without a smoking gun email or a smoking gun text message. That's okay. It's nice to have, but your word is enough if you're telling the truth. So understand, if you contact our office, that's a safe place. You're likely to meet one of 3 dogs, or sometimes all 3 of the dogs that are at our office. We're in an old house, good people who want to listen. So I hope you'll take the time to come and meet us and share what's happened. And worst case scenario, if you come and talk to us and you don't want to do anything about it, we respect that, and that's your choice. And we would maintain your confidentiality, absolutely.